Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Update. We've got some breaking news out of San Antonio, Texas, where Six Flags Fiesta Texas has officially announced their new for 2022 roller coaster. It is Dr. Diabolical's Cliffhanger. Now, Danny...
It is not diabolical, and it does not hang off the cliff.
It does not... Well, I don't know about diabolical, but definitely does not hang off the cliff.
No, this looks like a good ride.
So it is a B&M dive coaster, which might be the bigger story here, actually, is that Six Flags now is working with B&M again after a 9-year absence. Their last B&M ride was X-Flight at Great America, that wing coaster, that first year, that first of its kind. And then after X-Flight, we all thought, oh, Six Flags are going to start popping in wing coasters all over the place. And
boy, were we wrong. We were like, oh, X-Flight, that's the next Batman that they're going to clone everywhere else. And here we go, 9 years with no B&Ms.
9 years. And now we get a dive coaster, which I don't know. So we'll talk about the ride in a little bit, but just my initial impression of it, you texted me what this was. And I'm like, this is kind of strange that there's a whole bunch of rumors out there. Some people said it might be a new type of Zamperla roller coaster. That's like a bigger skyrocket version. That's a hyper coaster. Some people were speculating other stuff, but I thought this one was weird because, you know what, Danny, this looks a lot like Wonder Woman, just a little bit bigger. Like the first,
it's got a lot of similar elements, kind of, doesn't it?
Like the turnaround at the top, the first drop. Like I don't know, it just has that Wonder Woman feel to it.
Well, and I remember when I first rode Wonder Woman, and then later on that season, Railblazer, I remember saying to you, I think I compared it to dive coasters, did I not? I said, this is basically just a dive coaster, a more intense dive coaster with smaller trains. And I said, but I'm not sure I like it better than the dive coasters. So my initial reaction was, well, I like SheiKra and Griffin a little bit better. And then, this is more on the size of like a Baron 1898 over at Efteling, or, even the not yet opened Emperor, which used to be called Mako, which is actually the cup that's the logo that's adorning my watermelon lemonade with Old Smoky Moonshine here. But it's very odd that if they're going to go dive coaster, they didn't go big dive coaster, right?
Well, so that's the interesting point. So let's look at what this ride's made up of. So Six Flags has already posted a really nice POV of real nice stuff. So we'll throw some of that up here too, some breakdowns. So you have a 95-degree beyond vertical drop, which is actually the first beyond vertical drop for a dive coaster made by B&M, correct?
I believe so. I mean, they're making a big deal out of it. I mean, I know Oblivion actually doesn't ever get to 90 degrees. I believe Oblivion's like 88 and a half or 89. Like, it's very distinctly not 90 degrees, but like Griffin and SheiKra and Valraven, I'm pretty sure that all of those are pretty much 90. I don't know about Baron and Krake and some of the smaller ones. But.
So you have the beyond vertical drop, then you go into an Immelman. Then you do a little stuff, and you get the 0G roll next, which I've always thought on Valraven, especially with the vest, and this train will have the vest restraints according to all the renderings. Especially with the vest, I felt like the 0G roll might have been the best element on Valraven. So
and Yukon Striker has one too.
There you go. So to have that closer up to the front where you're hitting your max speed a little bit, I think that might be a really interesting element there. And then you go into the brake run, which unfortunately it does have a brake run, and it has a second drop that's 75 feet. The one thing about Emperor people have been praising, and some of the ones over in Europe, is that they don't have that brake run to kind of slow down the ride. You only get the one dive in quotation marks, but I think most people will say that those dives are a lot of times just a throwaway element. That I'd rather have some stuff done at a higher speed. So for instance, after that, you do a wild bank turn, which is just a bank turn into an airtime hill, into another spiral, and then into the station. So you're going to cut off a lot of your speed coming out of that second drop. And that's why you can do some of those bank turns and the high speed turns. I don't know. It looks like It's a small dive coaster. It looks like it's a solid dive coaster. I think it's a strange choice for the park, given that they have the Wonder Woman clone. Kind of wondering why they didn't do go like wing coaster, because there's no.
Well, I imagine that comes back to the gimmick of the dive and the holding break, right? I mean, the focus of Wonder Woman. I mean, yeah, the drop is close to vertical on Wonder Woman, or it is vertical at a very small point. But at the end of the day, Wonder Woman is, I think the similarity is almost more obvious to the casual guest as opposed to the coaster enthusiast, right? Because we know Wonder Woman as the RMC, the out of control, intense, airtime, quick directional changes, the speed, the intensity, and B&M dive coasters historically have been none of those things. It's not about the intensity. It's about the gracefulness and the floatiness. It's not about the speed. It's about, the big, large swooping elements, right? It's not about the compactness. It's about how large and sort of spanning they are. So from an enthusiast standpoint, I don't think there's a lot of similarities, but like you said, when you start to look at the stats and what the ride actually looks like, it does look an awful lot like Wonder Woman. Now, that probably changes once you get to the station, and instead of a single rail train, you've got this really wide track. Instead of, sort of going over that drop with gusto after the turn, you go up there, you spend a lot of time slow. You don't really get a view from Wonder Woman. Not necessarily saying you're going to get a view from Cliffhanger here either. But, it's kind of in the middle of the park. It's across from Iron Rattler off to the one side, but situated kind of in the middle of things. So you'll probably get a nice view of the park while you're up there. But you've got the holding break that's going to be on the drop. That's like the typical dive coaster. So your emphasis is going to be on the drop itself. And whereas Wonder Woman, it's everything after that, right?
And like that's the thing that like people always like. If you go by dive coasters, people are always standing around that drop, and they're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that they're just standing, like holding up there," and then they just drop. So that's always been like the gimmick. It's been the gimmick on social media. We know that Six Flags.
Would you ride this? It's always Yukon Striker or Griffin or Valraven or something.
Yeah, and like that's always been like the emphasis, and that hold aspect of it really freaks people out. And we know Six Flags is no stranger to those types of rides with the tourbillons that were huge on Facebook, and then they installed it. This is coming a little late. I wonder, just off the top of my head, it's like, okay, why is Six Flags all of a sudden working with B&M again? Which I think is a great thing, because I think there's a lot of opportunities now for a lot of cool B&M coasters to go into parks. And we see Six Flags spending more money. That we saw Six Flags spend maybe $20 million plus on West Coast Racers. Some people put Max Force at around $15 million because of the launch, even though it's a really short ride. So we see Six Flags spending money now. So does this mean we might start seeing more B&Ms? Because if you're in the $20 million range and you're paying that, you might as well buy a B&M that's going to be reliable, that's going to be a people eater, that's going to be a major attraction in your park. Could we see maybe something like Orion show up in the parks all of a sudden?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's certainly a possibility, right? And part of this is, if Fiesta Texas wasn't already sort of the Six Flags proving ground before they go out to, the Great Adventures and the Magic Mountains and, those parks, I think it most certainly seems to be now. I mean, even though Iron Rattler wasn't the first RMC, it was the second. It was, I think you could argue that New Texas Giant was just more of a proof of concept from an RMC standpoint to make sure that the Iron Horse would work and they could actually get a good ride out of it. And then Iron Rattler, they kind of took it to the next level a little bit and really went for that more intense, out of control type of ride. And then, it's well documented what came after that.
Well, and it's kind
Goliath,
of
Twisted Colossus.
If you track like Great America, though, Great America used to be the place that the new B&Ms would go. You had Iron Wolf, and Superman, and then you could even argue to some extent Raging Bull being the first hyper
Raging
twister.
Bull, X-Flight,
and then X-Flight. So it's kind of weird that like I'm kind of like, well, why didn't Great America get the dive coaster? It would have followed suit, but
and then I mean after that you had the Free Flies, which are very popular across the chain now. I mean half the chain has one, and now Wonder Woman. I mean we're seeing Jersey Devil, which is open now. Magic Mountain.
Is it strange at all that Six Flags is installing B&Ms and Cedar Fair is installing Free Flies? like what is going on here all of a sudden? Like the world.
Who dressed up Cedar Fair as Six Flags here recently? But no, that's a good point, right? I mean, and then so is this to say like, okay, if this dive coaster is popular, I mean, the Free Flies are a little bit different because they paraded them around to all the different parks. But I mean, we did Wonder Woman, we got Jersey Devil. Now supposedly Magic Mountain is going to go an even bigger single rail for next year, perhaps, it seems. So if the dive coaster works here at Fiesta, do we see parks like, a Great America or a Great Adventure or maybe even a Magic Mountain in a few years? Do they go bigger dive coaster? Same way we saw like Accelerator at Knott's and then Top Thrill Dragster at Cedar Point. Like, are we looking at that type of relationship again, where they have sort of this darling park that they're gonna try things out at? I don't know.
It's hard to tell, and it'll be exciting now because it opens up a whole new line of thinking. Like I never expected to be talking about Six Flags installing a B&M in 2022. Like that came out of left field for me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, there were multiple things on the table, and we talked about some of them in a show a couple months ago. And I don't think B&M Dive Coaster was on our list at all. I think we talked about a number of options. And I don't know if B&M Dive Coaster even came up in the discussion, quite frankly.
It never crossed my mind, that's for sure.
Another interesting thing here, and again, another difference that people will notice, we talked about the enthusiasts obviously know the Wonder Woman and Cliffhanger. It's Cliffhanger, right? It's not Cliff Diver, it's Cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger, yeah.
Cliffhanger. Weird. I still want to say Claim Jumper. Another difference that people notice is, like I said, we talk about the big track, the small track, and whatnot. Even though from a layout standpoint they look similar, the Raptors, like Wonder Woman, are single rail, straight, one person per car in a line. Whereas now you've got the big, usually 6, 8, or 10 across dive coaster trains. But no, Andy, this one's got 7. So
it's also confirmed by the press release that said they are 21 passenger trains. So even if
it's weird, and I gotta wonder if there's a reason for that.
Maybe they found a magic weight that this would be a better, because they, like I said, they are using the vest restraints, and Valraven's 8. Do any of the other dives use this? Does Phoenix use the vest restraint, or that's a wing coaster?
Yeah. So let's see. Baron 1898, or if we say it in the native language, Baron Ectenacten. And Croquet at Hyde Park are both 6 across, but those use the hard restraints. Those are much closer to floorless trains that just have 2 extra seats on one on each end. They're not really dive coaster trains. And I think it even uses floorless track. Those 2. It's not dive coaster track. But like Valraven, Griffin, Shikra, those use honest to goodness dive coaster track. Yukon Striker. Griffin is 10 across with the hard restraint. Shikra is 8. Valraven and Yukon, I think, are both 8. Is Yukon 10? I thought Yukon was only 8.
I have to look at a picture.
Valraven's definitely only 8, but I mean, but now Yukon and Valraven use the vests. But I mean, 7, that's a new one. Completely.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it looks like 8 on
okay.
Yukon, which would make sense because why make something new? Which is weird because why are they making something?
Why are you making? Well, because if you want 6 across, there's a design for that. If you want 8 across, there's a design for that. If you want to go 10 across, there's a design for that. So 7 across.
You know what, Emperor, because Emperor, all the animations are wrong, I think.
I thought Emperor was going to be like the 6 across floorless style trains.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, Emperor's 6 across.
So you can see how those look a little bit more like floorless trains than the traditional dive trains.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting.
So, and then the last thing let's talk about here is the theme and the location. We were spot on with the location, with where those pictures came from. That it's going to go.
Yeah, the apology line starts here on that.
Yeah. So the location was spot on, right across from Iron Rattler, like you said earlier. And the theme is interesting too, where Dr. Diabolical, that they were doing some phone messaging, and basically she's sort of like a witch or some sort of wizard. And it's definitely a girl. It was a girl on the phone, and the press release is using the she pronouns. So it's this whole story. She's creating a machine to like suck the life energy out of you so that she can stay young forever.
Did we get to Alton Towers all of a sudden here?
Yeah,
It sounds like the Marmalizer, or is the Marmalizer, yeah, with the smiler.
It does exactly. So the logo is pretty cool. We kind of already saw the logo in some of the hints that they were posting on Twitter, but now we have the logo with the word mark. And once again, they're trying to theme out that area to that steampunk like, that steampunk like theme, because they already have the air race across with the steampunk theme, and now they're going to add this right near there. So you wonder if that whole area is going to get a steampunk overlay on top of it too, because it's already kind of like an old westy area because of Iron Rattler.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird spot to do that sort of overlay with like the whole Jules Verne style.
Yeah. So our first announcement down, look at that. The end of July.
It's been a long time since we've talked about a new ride announcement.
When was the last one we talked about? Like
probably Velocicoaster, but that we knew that well before it was actually announced.
Yeah, like Gwazi probably was the last one, because Busch usually announces real late.
Yeah, I mean, Iron Gwazi was one of the worst kept secrets ever, as was Velocicoaster. I don't know what the actual last announcement was. It was probably the Six Flags chain-wide announcement some time ago, and which, by the way, they've done away with. The Jim Reed Anderson days are sort of over. So I believe even Jeff Siebert, I think he actually confirmed, I don't know if it was Twitter or Facebook, but that the chain-wide announcements for Six Flags are going away altogether. So,
and you can't really use this because Fiesta Texas does have a history of announcing early too, where they did announce Wonder Woman early.
But it does seem that maybe those days are behind us, which, I guess I
wouldn't be surprised if we don't see every Six Flags park this year get something new. A lot of them are being very, very quiet. I know Great America has been somewhat quiet, and usually they're ones that if they're getting almost anything that they're teasing, like they teased the water coaster last year, they teased Max Force in a really great campaign. So a lot of the Six Flags have been somewhat quiet. Now, traditionally, they don't announce till the most of the parks don't announce till the end of August.
Right.
So it's probably unlikely that maybe they'll start up here now that Fiesta's out of the way. Maybe we'll start seeing some more stuff. We do have some stuff we're going to talk about later on with King's Dominion as well, has started up their rumor mill. So
I feel like they've been. Feel like they've had a ride in the pipeline for about 2.5 years now.
Forever, right?
Always.
So as always, we will keep you updated on all the latest breaking news and developments here. So I am, of course, Andrew Barchak from Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm Danny Miller from Binghamton, New York.
Right on, Ride Warriors.
See you guys.